Hey y'all, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad we can hang out again today. Today I kind of wanted to do a video all about doing things afraid, because this is a theme that's been kind of on my mind and my heart for a few weeks, and I just felt like it was something I could discuss a little bit, because I for sure have had my fair share of doing things afraid, and I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with, realizing that the feelings of fear are normal and healthy, but they are not necessarily indicative of things you shouldn't be doing. So I just wanted to kind of go a little bit more into depth on this topic and share some of my thoughts and feelings on it. So the first thing I want to mention is that the feeling of fear when doing something, especially something new or big or intimidating, is very normal. It's very healthy. Lots of people experience it, and it's not indicative that you are doing something wrong. In fact, oftentimes it is a demonstration that you are doing something correct. Now, the important thing to remember is that fear is kind of your brain's way of like self-preservation. Oftentimes it will creep up whenever we're doing something that is new or new to us or new to our peer group or whatever, something that's not been done by our general immediate circle. And it's kind of like your brain's way of saying, hey, this is new, tread carefully, be aware of what you're doing, so that it's trying to protect you from major slip-ups. It's not necessarily telling you, hey, don't do this thing. It's just kind of like, you know, when a parent's watching their kid like ride a bike or something. It's not saying don't do it, it's just saying, hey, there could be some areas where you might fall or injure yourself. Just be aware and just be careful when you're making steps, and make sure that you take them in clarity and in wisdom, and so that you are not putting yourself in unnecessary risk. That's really all fear is in many cases. When we're doing something new, something big, it's new territory. Our brain doesn't know like immediately what to do, and so it's like, hey, just be mindful of what you're doing so that we don't get hurt unnecessarily. So that is an important thing to remember when experiencing fear, especially when making big decisions, is that it's normal and it is just your body's way of making sure you're safe. And so you can thank your mind for that and say, thank you for watching out for me, making sure that I make steps in wisdom and that I'm not just jumping out and, you know, going crazy. It's a self-preservation thing, and we should thank ourselves for that and be thankful that we have that built into us so that we can be careful when we're doing stuff. I've certainly felt fear throughout my life, especially recently as I've become more and more of an entrepreneur. It's new to me. Most of my family and my general peer group don't have an entrepreneurial spirit. I can't necessarily tap into anything that they've done before. I can't necessarily say, hey, what are some tips and tricks you have to help me better navigate this terrain? This is new to my general peer group. When Helene and I first started the Red Pen Press, I was literally shaking when we signed our business papers to create this business. I was so unsure. I was just like, my hand was shaking as I signed my name on the papers, because it was so new and I wasn't sure how well it was gonna go, and I was just really scared. And then when, I nearly threw up when we opened our bank account. Like, it was like so scary, and I just remember just being so scared. But then, you know, almost 3 years later, you know, I have a wide slew of books out. Our business is doing well. We're growing. We're, you know, expanding leaps and bounds, and it has been a great experience. But if I hadn't pushed through that fear, that worry, that doubt, we would never have gotten to this point. And that is just so awesome to think that it was that I was brave enough to go through that and say, you know, I'm going to do this anyway, this matters to me, and then be able to look back on it and say, we've come a long way in only a few years to being able to publish like 8 books. Like, that is so incredible, and I'm so proud of how I pushed through with that. And the same goes with my current business startup that I'm working on. There's a lot of doubt in it. Again, this is something that no one in my general peer group has really delved into. Coaching is not something that I have a lot of it. I have some experience with it, but I don't necessarily have anybody that I can talk to and have like immediate validation of it. Like, people are like, yes, you can do this, but I haven't seen many in my personal life do it. So I'm treading on new water here, and it's a little intimidating. And you know, there are many days where I'm like, am I going to be able to make this work? Is this going to become something worthwhile? Am I making the right steps? And I just have to keep pushing through with confidence that this is where the Lord is leading me, and that He will provide for me, and that this is what He called me to do, and that I need to step out in faithfulness in that, and that He will provide everything that I need. But it is still intimidating. It's still scary sometimes to step out and to make those decisions. I have fear every time, really, that I pick up a new story that I'm going to write, and wondering if it's worth my while, especially as I delve more and more into touchy subjects that are personal to me. It's a little scary opening myself up to scrutiny. These are vulnerable spots in my heart that I'm now putting out into the world and letting people see, and wondering if they don't like this, then is that indicative of them not liking me? And having to learn to separate those two, dealing with that fear of opening myself up and being more vulnerable in my writing and letting people see my heart as it is very scary. Especially with Escape from Mathibo, I was quite intimidated because it was very much a personal story to me in terms of dealing with grief and fear and uncertainty, and it was such a vulnerable story for me that I was afraid of letting people in and letting them read it and experience it with me. And I still have a little bit of fear. I'm separated from it a little bit now, but it is a common thing for me to experience. So I just want to let you guys know that if you're experiencing it, you're not alone. I definitely am. And some tips that I've learned to incorporate whenever these feelings are coming up, I would like to share those with you. One is taking deep breaths. I know this is cliche, but it does help sometimes to just pause and just say, you know, we're going to separate from this feeling for a minute. We're going to take some deep breaths so that when we come back, we're in a more objective view instead of subjective. It helps put a pause on our feelings. The next thing I often do is remind myself of my values and my goals. If something is important to me, such as starting my business, you know, I pushed through because I believed in the business, I believed in the value of it, and it was worth pushing through that fear. And that kind of leads me into my next one, is to find a support team. When I started the Aura Pen Press, I wasn't doing it alone. Helena and I are business partners. We are in it together and we work on it together, and so I don't have to deal with all of that by myself. I have that built-in support system, but even if you don't have like a business partner, you can find a support system that will encourage you and cheer you on, whether it be your family, your friends, some trusted mentors, anybody really that you trust enough and who believes in you enough to support you through the scary. It doesn't even necessarily have to be someone in your immediate life. It can be a YouTuber or some other like thought leader that you look up to. You can just hear their words of encouragement and embrace that. For me, I'm a believer, and so often I will read Bible verses that talk about God's promises, and I, try to rest in those and trust in God's providence and in His provision for my life. That often helps me deal with the fear a little bit more calmly, and that's part of my support system, is believing that God is watching out for me, that He watches over me as He watches over the sparrows, that I'm more valuable to Him than sparrows, and knowing that He will provide for my every need and that He looks out for me is really encouraging and helps me work through the fear when I'm dealing with it. So yeah, that's just my experience so far in terms of dealing with fear and doing things afraid. These might have been rambly thoughts, but I just kind of wanted to share my heart on it and encourage you that if you are doing new things, big things, whatever it is, and you feel intimidated and afraid about it, to take heart and to realize that it is not a sign that you should stop, but that you are capable of pushing through that fear and pursuing things that matter to you. And I hope you find encouragement in this video, and that you are able to reach for whatever it is you're trying to work for, and that you are able to press through the fear no matter what. And so yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And I hope we can hang out again sometime soon. But until then, I hope you have a very blessed day. Bye!